Joining us for Health Coach Tip Tuesday. I have a really exciting topic for you today. And our special guest, Tricia Nelson, is here to join us to talk all about emotional eating. So I'm really excited. This is a new topic, a subject we've never really talked about before on here. So I'm really excited to dig into this with us today. So bear with me just a second. I'm having a little bit of technical issue on my end, but I will get there. Here we go. Aha. Okay. We are ready. Thank you for joining us, you guys. Do you have clients that really, they have the best intention when it comes to eating healthy, but just don't seem to stick to their plan? I don't know about you, but I definitely do. And so I'm excited to hear what Tricia has to share with us today. So welcome to the Health Coach Tip Tuesday show, where every week we share tips, tools, and resources for health coaches and professionals so that you can confidently solve your clients' issues and grow your career as a health coach or professional. For those of you just joining us, I want you to drop the word EAT below this video, and we are going to send you Tricia's amazing cheat sheet today. If you are a health coach or a practitioner, you're going to want to grab this. It is 50 emotional eating questions. So you make sure to grab the cheat sheet, drop the word EAT below. And I am your host, Piper Gibson, Director of Course Enrollment for Functional Diagnostic Nutrition. And my guest today is Tricia Nelson, and we are going to be talking about how to overcome emotional eating. Hi, Tricia. How are you today?
I'm great. Good to see you. Thanks for having me.
Yeah, I'm really excited to have you fill us in on all things emotional eating. So Tricia is one of the platinum sponsors for the Functional Health Coaching Conference, and I've seen her speak a couple of times, and she has some amazing tips, tools, and resources to share. So I'm really excited to have you here today.
Thank you for having me. It's really, I love FDNs. I love Reed. I love Jen. I love you. I love Kay Marie. I love all you guys. And, and the work that you're doing and all the health coaches are doing in the world. It's really important and really aligned with Heal Your Hunger.
Thank you, Tricia. I really appreciate that. And yes, I think FDN and what you do aligns perfectly. I would love for you to share a little bit about your story. I think you have a fantastic story. So I would love to start out by sharing a little bit more about you.
Okay, thanks. Yeah, I was an emotional eater from the get-go, even though I had no knowledge of it whatsoever. I mean, I grew up loving food. I love to cook. I love to serve it to other people. I love to go out to dinner. And of course, I love to eat. And, I thought that was the beginning of the end of it. I just loved food. The problem is, Piper, that I had a weight problem and I did not love that. So, I was really like obsessed with my weight and the fact that I had this roll on my tummy. I would scrunch up in my hands and it was fat after all. So can't you just slice it off like you'd slice the fat off the side of a steak? So this is where my head was going. Thank God I didn't try that. And then I thought, wow, maybe I'll join the army and I'll be forced to go through boot camp and exercise because I hated exercise because I was overweight. I was asthmatic. I just, the whole exercise thing wasn't working for me. And, as I got older, I was putting on weight. And by age 21, I was 50 pounds overweight and yeah, really miserable with my weight. And I'd already been through several diets, exercise programs, pills, potions, and lotions, and 12-step programs. I even went to a year of eating disorders therapy twice a week. So it's like I was really giving it my best shot and trying to deal with my eating issues. And I heard one time, this is a long time ago, but I heard my sister come home and announce that she was an emotional eater. And I thought, well, that's just the stupidest thing I've ever heard of. I just like food. But of course, the seed was planted literally when she said that. And I started to observe that my relationship with food was not so normal. And, I'd go out with friends and they'd order a sandwich and it would come with fries and they'd eat their sandwich and pick up their fries. I would pick up my sandwich and eat my fries, all of them, and then my friends' fries. And I'd like, who could leave a French fry on a plate? So,
right? Yes.
Yeah. So I observed that I was not really normal around food. And then, regarding the dieting and weight loss thing, I tried so many different things, and it's not that they didn't work. I mean, they worked from time to time, but the problem is then they didn't work. Like I did them for a time, And then I would go back to my way of eating, which was to overeat. And so it was really frustrating to me. And what happened is I just hit a brick wall and I thought, I can't possibly do this for the rest of my life because I was a yo-yoer. So I'd lose 30, gain 20, lose 10, gain 30. And I had like 5 different sizes of jeans in my closet because I was never sure what size I was gonna be at any given time, and I was always holding out hope for those skinny jeans, right? So, so it was really it was a torturous experience for me, and secretive too, because I did have these terrible binges where I would binge on 2,000, 3,000 calories in a sitting, and I felt so ashamed of that. And it was, especially because I was trying to be health conscious, and I think that's an issue obviously for health coaches as well, who are maybe struggling with food a bit. It's like, wow, I'm telling other people how to eat, but I'm not following my own advice. So long story short is I got help, and I got help in a way that was far different than anything I'd ever done. Where I was shown how to go deeper and really deal with the underlying causes of my aberrant eating habits. And so that changed everything for me, and I was able to finally address and heal what was going on, what was driving me to the kitchen time and time again. And after that, I started working with the man who helped me, and for over, like, it's close to 30 years, we worked together to help people with eating issues and other addictions as well, because we were really dealing with the underlying causes of the addictive personality. And then more recently, I started my own company, Heal Your Hunger, about 4 years ago. And I've been specifically dealing with emotional eating ever since, because it's really my love. To me, it's the most overlooked problem there is in the whole weight loss conversation. It's a gap. People are given lots of knowledge about what to eat, how much to eat, what foods are best, organic, vegan, paleo, whatever, but they can't follow what they know. And that's the rub. And that's really what I'm here to help people do. And it's such a pleasure. And I have a step-by-step process. And that's what's so cool, is I take the whole mystery out of it.
I love that. And I think when you have that step-by-step process, not only does it take the mystery out, but it's really like that hand holding experience. It's like, this is everything you need to do to get to this end game.
Totally. And it's, because it is a big mystery to people. It's like, why do I keep eating this way? Especially when I know better. Why am I continuing to look for solace in food when it's not there, or it's very short lived? Why do I still have these 20, 30, 40 pounds on me when I have so much knowledge about health, and I'm trying so hard? So I hear that all the time. It's like, I try so hard, but I just, by the end of the day, I'm tired, I'm stressed, and I just end up eating. So that's really what I do help people with, is getting to the bottom of that and changing their behaviors. And the fact that it isn't nebulous, that it is very specific on, if you do, A through F, you're going to get results. And even if you fall off, which it's, we're dealing with a lifelong habit here, addictive habit here, so it doesn't like just get cured in an instant. But if people fall off, like my clients will do it and then they'll stop doing it and they'll go back to eating, but they know exactly what happened. Like we can totally, deconstruct it and see, oh, this is what you stopped doing, get back to that, and you'll be right back on track, which is what happened. So it's really nice to take the guesswork out of it so that people know exactly what to do, and it's not so nebulous. I find that the advice out there regarding eating and emotional eating tends to be somewhat murky, like intuitive eating or mindful eating. And these aren't bad concepts. They're sound concepts, but they're not very specific on what to do. And that leaves people just, again, kind of wondering and kind of throwing darts, at it. And it doesn't have to be that way. It can be very specific, very step by step, and it can totally work.
Awesome. So if you guys are just joining us, we've got a bunch of people watching. Make sure to drop the word EAT below this video, and we are going to send you Tricia's amazing cheat sheet. It's 50 emotional eating assessment questions. I actually have it on my computer right now because I'm going to read through all of them later today. Tricia, how do you determine if your client might be an emotional eater? What are some of the signs?
It's a great question. And yes, that assessment, that those 50 questions are really helpful for people. You can use those questions in your assessments with people because look, you don't want to be, 6 months into a relationship, with a client and figure out, wait, this person's an emotional eater. Like no matter what I tell them, they're not doing it. Like that's a lot of wasted time. You could lose the client, lose referrals, lose revenue. So when you know off the bat by using these questions, you wouldn't use all 50. You pick and choose the ones that work the best for you. But when you have a better clue as to what their eating behavior is and whether it's an emotional eating issue, then out of the gate you can start to address it. And it just takes so much time off of trying to figure this out. It helps you know what you're dealing with here because it's not a normal client. It's somebody who has struggled with food and weight chronically. Chances are they are an emotional eater, but the more you know about them and their habits, the more you can address that and also customize your plan for them, taking that into consideration. So to answer your question though, Piper, there's lots of things that emotional eaters do. I mean, for one thing, they use food to bury their emotions, so they're typically snacking and nibbling. Like food is it's a very live thing for them. Like food's a big
Yeah.
part of their day and they don't even realize it. They're very unconscious about it. So you might even ask them if they're an emotional eater and they could very well say, oh no, because they think, I heard one person say recently, like, yeah, I thought emotional eating was just eating, crying and eating ice cream. So, you know,
Yeah.
but the thing about emotional eating, and which is so important for people to know, is it goes way beyond their eating behavior, and there's ways of being that emotional eaters have that's very specific to being an emotional eater. Like emotional eating is a thing, okay? So it's and I have a assessment, a quiz, which these questions can be used in a quiz as well, that helps people determine whether an emotional eater or a food addict or somewhere in between. And my experience is most people, like, I feel like we're hardwired to have an emotional connection with food. That's why the breastfeeding is such an impactful experience for an infant. It's like emotions surround eating, and eating can be an emotional experience, and that's not a bad thing. So most people have it to some degree where, yeah, it tastes good, feels good, to eat something carby, rich, chocolatey, whatever. But some people take it further, where it's not just once in a while they go overboard. It's like a chronic thing, and it's a chronic obsession, whether they act on it or not. It's taken up a lot of space in their head. And so uh, there's a personality type that emotional eaters typically have. And what I've done is I've identified 24 personality traits of the emotional eater. So these are things also these questions, if people get these questions, are going to point to as well. Things like one of the, like I'd say the top trait is people pleasing. Well, emotional eaters are consummate people pleasers, and I certainly was one, where they're getting, because they have trauma. Typically, 80% of people who chronically struggle with food and weight, have some kind of trauma in their past, and they started using food as a coping tool at a very young age. But if they grew up with alcoholism or a rageful parent or some kind of mental illness, like there's a long list of things, those ACEs, those adverse childhood experiences. What happens is we develop coping school tools just to get by, and people pleasing is one of them. If you have an alcoholic parent, you better learn how to be a people pleaser or you get your ass kicked. Like it's like really, really important to be able to adapt, have antenna out for other people's energy, where they're at the moment. So it saved our lives as a kid, but then what happens as an adult is it becomes a dysfunctional way of living in the world. So people pleasing, which kind of sounds innocuous, like, oh, you're pleasing people, isn't that nice? But the problem is we do it because we have a sense that we lack self-worth. Like we're trying to get our validation from outside of us, right? And so it's super, super important to realize that when we do that, first of all, what happens is we're not living inside ourselves. We're not connected with who we are, for one thing. But what happens is we run ourselves ragged, absolutely ragged, trying to please people. And so we're overworking, we're overtired, our adrenals are stressed, and then on top of it is we're kind of pissed off because people are never as pleased as we expect them to be when we're doing all these things for them. We might just
Yeah.
get an offhanded thank you, and we're like, that's it, like, after all I just did. Right? And so it's a perfect setup for what I call the I deserve it binge. Like, screw them, they didn't appreciate me, I'm gonna go home and reward myself. And we go home and we're kind of filled with all this anger and all kind of indignant, and so we binge and we feel quite justified. But that's an example of how this trait of people pleasing leads to overeating. And as a coach, if you don't know this about your client, it's gonna show up, and it's gonna sabotage what they're trying to do. Because think about it, even if you tell your client, oh, make sure you eat at healthy restaurants, let's say, when we can eat at restaurants, but let's eat out when you go out to dinner, or when you go to a friend's house for dinner, make sure these are your choices. But somebody who is so dependent on people liking them isn't going to be able to speak up and say, hey, I don't eat grains, or I don't eat gluten, or whatever. They're not going to be able to get the words out of their mouth. And here you're trying to coach them, and they won't follow through because we got this people pleasing thing going on. Or you're trying to tell them to sleep more, right? Sleep more, calm down, relax, meditate. But if they're in this track of pleasing and this track of doing, because overeaters are also overdoers, another trait of emotional eaters, that's going to have to be addressed as well. So it goes deeper, and it has nothing to do with food ostensibly, and yet it does, because it drives our eating. These underlying motivations, these underlying ways of being in the world, ways of compensating for our feelings of lack or low self-worth, ends up totally sabotaging our behaviors around food.
Makes complete sense. And, I every time I hear you speak and, listen to you talk about emotional eating, I always learn something new and extremely valuable that I can kind of turn around and use with my own clients. So one of the things you do is actually teach health coaches and practitioners and professionals how to do your program. So I would love for you to share a little bit about your program and how it really helps practitioners to get results quickly and increase revenue and referrals.
Yeah, absolutely. I just feel so strongly that health coaches who don't have this information are operating at a deficit, and they're not getting all they can out of their coaching, relationship with their clients, and their clients aren't getting all they can. And so, first of all, we have the issue of health coaches who might need to up level their own relationship with food. And I want to talk about how that might be sabotaging their own success as a health coach, because it does. If you are feeling like an imposter because you don't really have a very healthy relationship with food, or you keep, eating the crap that you tell other people not to eat, you're going to feel bad. You're going to feel guilty. You're going to feel like, I hope there's not a camera somewhere here. Like, I hope my clients don't know what I'm doing, and so many people do it. So it's not like you're the only one by any stretch of the imagination. Although we tell ourselves we're the only one, we're the only health coach in the world who eats M&Ms, so not true. But the fact is that imposter syndrome, that feeling of being out of alignment with what we stand for and what we speak, is gonna sabotage your practice. Energetically, something's off, it's missing. And you really want to make sure that you're doing all that you can for yourself and getting the support you need to have a healthier relationship with food. Because my feeling is we could all have a healthier relationship with food. There's nothing to be ashamed about at all. Emotional eating, like I said, I think everybody does it. It's just a matter of where you are on the spectrum will determine how much help you need and support you need. And so I have many health coaches who have gone through, and FDNs who have gone through my program to learn my step-by-step process. So what we do in my coach training program, emotional eating coach training program, Piper, is that I tell my coaching clients to start by putting their client hat on first. So, like, forget the coaching role. Put your client hat on first, learn my system, go through it for yourself and get benefit from it. And I've had women who have, again, been FDNs, and they'd be like, wow, I didn't realize I was an emotional eater. Like I was doing this for my clients, but I can see now that there's a lot of, emotions around some of my snacking, some of my late night eating, and so they're just up leveling their relationship with food, even when they didn't believe they needed to. So it's really important that we do that first, and I know that's so much of what the FDN philosophy is too. Like, let's help ourselves. Let's be the client first, experience, the treatment, benefit from the treatment, and then we have firsthand experience. We know what the treatment is. We learn it and we experience it. We have a personal testimony with it, and then we teach it. And I'll tell you, clients are going to be so much more endeared to you if you yourself can acknowledge that you've had struggles with food and have been able to overcome them, and it's like, oh, because your client's not going to feel so strange and different or feel like you're up here as the successful one and they're down here. Like, no, like most people have had issues with food, especially women. So not a big deal. I can show you how to climb out of this because I have myself. So that personal testimony, a lot of people believe that, oh, wow, because I've struggled with food, I can't help other people struggle with food. And it's really just the opposite. Like when you have that personal experience, there's a connection you can make with clients that really does help them open their hearts and just trust you more because you're speaking candidly and authentically about your struggles and how you overcame them. So that's super, super helpful. And then what we do after that, 90 days of kind of having your own client hat on and learning the system, then you start learning how to teach it. And so I show you kind of why it is that I teach what I teach, why it's in this order, and we just go through that way of how to be an emotional eating coach and what to look for and where you're going to get pushback and how to help people through those trouble spots. And then the last part of the program is marketing. And because I spent so much time, so many years and so much money on marketing, in my own business, I know the buzzwords. I know the words that can help you attract people who are looking for help with emotional eating, and I will say it's a very untapped market because most people are doing more traditional, diets and intermittent fasting and, things that are like the big buzzwords around weight loss, but they're missing this very important piece. So there's very few people out there right now who have the skills to help people with emotional eating and to go deep with it. Again, people talk about intuitive eating, mindful eating, but that for somebody who's an emotional eater, frankly, those are harmful words, in some ways. They're good ideas, but for an emotional eater who's addicted to food, to tell them to use things like moderation, like just moderate your sweets, they can't, and you're actually hurting them by telling them that. So learning what helps and what doesn't help, or what can actually hurt is so important for a health coach so that you're not taking them down a path that's actually going to have to be fixed later. Like you just want to have the right language. You want to know what's going to help them, regarding intuitive eating. And you might be thinking, what's wrong with that? Well, again, very sound concept, but for an emotional eater, I'm telling stories all the time, right? So an emotional eater is going to talk to themselves saying, I'm intuiting that I should eat now, like, but that's not necessarily true because we talk to ourselves all the time and rationalize eating. And no, I think that I heard some study about chocolate. I think I should eat the chocolate, and so we trick ourselves and we end up going down that rabbit hole of unhealthy eating. And so being able to catch this and identify this in your clients is so, so important. Will save you so much time and your clients so much sabotage, and you'll really be able to help steer them clear of the self-sabotaging habits.
Fantastic. I love it. I want you to share with everybody how they can find out more about your program so that they can join the ranks of an emotional eating coach.
Yeah, so they can go to my website, healyourhunger.com. And there's a tab there on becoming an emotional eating coach. You can also take the free quiz on there to find out where you are in the emotional eating spectrum, whether you're an emotional eater or a food addict or somewhere in between. You'll get a personalized score when you take that free quiz. On my website, I'm sorry I don't have the link. I'm forgetting what the link is right now, but you can on my website. If you go to healyourhunger.com and go up to the tab, you'll see more about becoming a coach, you should be taken to a training. It's like a 20-minute training, which is 5 things your weight loss clients are afraid to tell you and how it's costing you business. So you'll actually get that 20-minute training from my website.
Awesome. Thank you so much, Tricia, for joining me. I look frozen on my end. I don't know if you can still hear me.
I
Can
can
you
hear
still hear
you.
me?
You
Okay.
look frozen.
Okay, well, everybody, I'm frozen. But if you can still hear me, thank you so much, Tricia, for joining me today and sharing your amazing insights. Make sure you guys go check out Tricia's program at healyourhunger.com. And if you're watching the replay, make sure to drop the word eat into the chat so that we can send you that diet cheat sheet. So you could, the emotional eating cheat sheet. I can't speak either, apparently. All right, you guys, thank you so much. Thank you, Tricia, for joining me today. And I hope you guys have a great day, and I will see you guys tomorrow for the real results